So, all right. So Clif and Amy, hello. Two of our parents who've just completed sleep school with Cole. And I've got a few questions I would love to ask just so that prospective parents can understand a little bit more about what sleep school is and what they would be getting themselves into and what to expect. So just to kind of set the scene, when you found Battelle, could you give me a little bit more insight into what was happening with Cole's sleep, and what was the state of play when you contacted us?
Yeah, so we weren't getting much sleep at that point. So Cole had just turned 9 months, and ever since his 4-month birthday, he had been up basically 5, 6, 7, 10, 12 times a night. Cliff was taking the first half of the night. I was taking the second half. He was in his crib sometimes for an hour or so, but he was just up and down all night long, still nursing 2 to 3 times a night just because I was so tired that I didn't know what else to do. So we were pretty sleep deprived around here.
Okay, and so on average, how many times is he waking up per night?
At that time, it was minimum 5 or 6 times. It was every hour, every 90 minutes, like on a good night. And to preempt that from being a problem of waking up Amy or anybody else in the house, at least during the first half of the night, he would just sleep on top of me in a chair. And that's where we got a long chunk.
Okay, so you were the comfort. And how did you find out about Battelle?
That would be me. So I had the first half of the night, and Amy took him to feed him and have her shift of watching the inmate. And I was a little frustrated, obviously, from being fatigued, trying to do my work every day. And I just went down the Google rabbit hole of looking for a sleep solution for an uncooperative baby. And to be perfectly honest, I don't 100% recall how it showed up. If it was, anyway, I just saw Battelle Sleep School, clicked in. I know one of the things that we were definitely interested in from a historical reference. We have another child who didn't sleep well the first time. And so this time it was kind of like, all right, we can't go through this again. We need some sort of help. And neither of us were particularly interested in any type of cry it out strategy. So I just was reading about it. And I mean, as luck would have it, it was the first thing that I really looked into.
Okay.
Set up a call, I think at like 3:30 a.m. my time.
So the next day, did you manage to get in?
I don't know if it was the next day. It might have been 2 days later, something like that.
Yeah.
And we had the call, and at that point, it was just like, all right, we're at least going to try it out, see what happens.
Okay. And at that point, when you decided to sign up, did you have any reservations? And if so, what were they? Did you think it would work? Did you think it was possible?
I didn't know what to expect, because I mean, it seemed like a huge promise after, what we've been going through with the first one and now this one. Because I'd read basically every sleep book on the planet and nothing seemed to work.
Yeah.
I didn't read, I read no sleep books.
You read no sleep books. But at that point I was like, we might as well try it.
Yeah. Nothing to lose.
Yeah, there really wasn't any. The reservation would have been in the first child. We tried a couple of different things, but I have a decent travel schedule, and so I'm out and about, and so we kind of jockey back and forth who's putting kids to bed and who's watching them through the night based on the travel. And so trying to figure out, like, hey, is this going to work in a busy house? We live with my parents, and it's just crowded. So we didn't, we'll come up with excuses for why maybe it wouldn't work, but.
Yeah. Okay. And then I suppose you decided to sign up and then started. And could you give everyone a bit of insight into how was your sort of 2-week sleep school journey?
So at the beginning, it was tricky because I mean it's a lot of time commitment at the beginning. And it's a big learning curve, especially when you're sleep deprived and you can't process information quickly.
Yeah.
But it was really nice, all the support you can get that in the middle of the night, you can just be texting somebody and you'll get a response almost immediately. Because without the help, I wouldn't have made it through. The first week we were getting less sleep, to be honest, but then things just slowly started, every night there's like a little bit of progress and a little bit of progress and a little bit of progress. And now he sleeps through the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. And a question I often see that sometimes parents will see incremental progress and then all of a sudden it just switches and a child is sort of sleeping through the night. Did it happen very incrementally for you, or did it sort of build up slowly and then all of a sudden he just didn't wake up in the night and then, bedtime was easy? How did that journey go?
Yeah, for Cole, it was on the last night was his first night sleeping the entire night through the night. And so I know that there was I was looking specifically like, oh, he did this better, he did that better. He was upset with us for this a little bit less time. And then on that last night, I think it was like 11 and a half hours, 11 hours, 45 minutes without a peep. And we're 3.5 weeks later, and it's the same thing, multiple, every 11 and a half, 12 hours. But watching the group was interesting because you saw, I think we had 9 people in our group, and you saw some children like third night, fourth night, like, oh yeah, no, they slept great the whole night long. Like, son of a gun. Let's go, Cole. Let's go. You're failing sleep school. What is wrong with you?
I mean, he made it there eventually. Yeah, how did that feel when you saw all these parents saying, celebrating their child sleeping through, and Cole still wasn't? And that must have been tough in some ways, and I maybe even sort of aspirational in others. You're like, okay, if they can do it, we can do it. How did that feel? Were there both of those feelings? Neither of those feelings?
Clif, I think, was good at focusing on all the little things, because every night there was a little thing that was better. I wasn't quite as good at I was getting a little frustrated. Like I felt like maybe I was doing something wrong, or maybe I'm just destined to have non-sleeping children. But I just sort of was like, I trusted Miss Megan and trusted the process, and obviously eventually it worked. He just took longer than some of the other children.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad that Cole got there, and as I said, great timing. Okay, and what did you find the most challenging about sleep school? I think this is often something that parents going in, they just want to know, okay, what do I need to prepare myself for? What should I find either surprising or challenging? Maybe both.
You want me to answer? You want to answer?
The hardest. So at the beginning, anything that you've been doing, not anything, but a lot of the things that you've been doing are going to change. And, you're a little timid and you're not 100% trusting that it's going to work right out of the gate. And as Miss Megan said, like, you're probably going to have some get worse before it gets better because we're changing stuff on the baby. And in the context of having, a previous child that didn't sleep, and after 5 months of getting no sleep, it's difficult to really remain super positive, even if it's only 2 days. And then on the third day, you see some positivity happening, and you're like, okay, this rekindles my hope in the world again. So, but because you're doing all these different items in the first couple of nights, like you're up, you're texting, you're trying to get the information, you're on the sleep calls during the day, like Amy said, it's a time commitment, and it's not so much about the time commitment each day that we're dedicating to studying or anything. It's that it's all encompassing in your head for 2 weeks that this is what you're going to accomplish. And like it sounds like a lot, but one of the things that I don't know if I said it to Amy or if I was just talking to a friend about a week ago. They asked how the sleep was going. I was like, to be honest, the best way for me to describe it is that it doesn't quite even seem real yet, because it's so different from where it was. Like, it's not easy to describe going from not having slept for 5 months for more than 3 hours, except for when I traveled. I got a couple of nights in because I would travel.
Yeah.
But other than that, like getting just walking around like a zombie, and then all of a sudden going, oh, there's sunlight outside.
Yep. And you kind of forget what it's like to not be tired. And you know, yep, completely. Okay, thank you. And I think last question I have is, two things. First of all, if there was one piece of advice that you could give parents who were thinking of doing sleep school, or one piece of insight that you wish you knew or that would have helped you to make the decision before, what would that be?
Well, aside from just knowing that it worked really nicely, and that there's the other elements too, that the way that it why we were doing things, how to do things, they were described in a way that was different than perhaps what you had read in books. And I mean, frankly, they worked better than what we had tried before. So I've been pretty vocal about telling like my brother, who's got like maybe a baby on the way. This will go up at some point after. That's all right. Nobody knows who my brother is. It's okay. That's awkward.
He has 3 of them. Who knows which one?
It could be any of them. Who knows? Maybe all of them. But friends, family, just saying, hey, proactively do this, because we ran fitness studios for a long time, so we had a lot of parents there, and one of the common things was parents would talk about how they're underslept and they wish their kid would sleep. And if more people knew that there was a better way to go about learning how to help them sleep, like I wish I could go back in time and do it for the first kid. I'd have way more hair, and it would be luscious and not gray. I'm pretty sure.
And my last question is, if you ever had another child, would you put a second or third child through sleep school as well? And would you recommend your future selves or your previous self to do it earlier, to do it later? How do you feel like it was with Cole?
If we have another, I mean, we're not having another, but if we did, we'd do it whatever the Battelle babies is first, and then this one, and any of them, all the programs.
I'm forging her birth certificate. I'm putting her through sleep school.
Sounds like a good idea. All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your honesty and openness. And it's really great, I think, to hear someone or people who've gone through and actually have done it, who know what it's like, who've been through the ups and the downs, and who've come out the other side with a sleeping child. So thank you very much. And hopefully this is useful for some parents who might be on that sort of edge of deciding whether to join or not.
Yeah, I hope so.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.